He left on a Friday morning, locking his front door the same way he always did. The street was quiet, but not unusually so. Mrs. Calder's curtains were open across the road. Mr. IB was washing his car 2 houses down, the radio murmuring low and tinny. A delivery van was parked near the corner, hazard lights blinking patiently. Everything looked ordinary, boringly familiar. He waved to no one in particular, tossed his bag into the trunk, and drove off for what was supposed to be a simple 3-day weekend visiting his sister 2 towns over. When he came back on Monday evening, the street looked exactly the same. And that was the first thing that felt wrong. The lawns were trimmed. The bins had been rolled back beside the garages. Porch lights flicked on one by one as the sun dipped behind the houses. Even the delivery van was gone as expected. But there were no people. No Mrs. Calder watering her flowers. No kids biking in slow circles. No Mr. IBE and his ever-present radio. Not a single person stood outside, passed by, or looked out a window. At first he assumed bad timing. People run errands. People work late. Streets empty out sometimes. He unpacked, microwaved leftovers and waited. By 9 o'clock, the silence had thickened into something uncomfortable. No doors opened. No cars pulled in. No muffled TVs flickered behind curtains. It wasn't peaceful, it was hollow. He stepped onto his porch and listened. Nothing. Not even crickets. He walked to the edge of his driveway and looked up and down the block. Every house looked lived in. Cars were parked where they always were. Wind chimes hung motionless. A porch swing creaked once, gently, without anyone touching it. He called out a neighbor's name, half joking, half expecting embarrassment. No one answered. That night he barely slept. The next morning he knocked on doors. Mrs. Calder's house smelled faintly of lavender through the screen. No answer. Mr. IB's door was unlocked. Inside, the TV was still on, paused mid-sentence. A mug sat cold on the counter, a ring of coffee dried at the bottom. The back door stood open. No sign of a struggle. No blood. No mess. Just absence. By noon he had been inside 5 houses. All the same. Beds made. Phones charging. Keys hanging on hooks. One house had toast burned black in the toaster. Another had a dog bowl filled with water, untouched. The pets were gone too, leashes still hanging, food still out. He called the police. They arrived within the hour. 2 officers walked the street, brows furrowed, radios crackling. They asked him to wait on his porch. An hour passed. Then 2 more cars arrived. Then an unmarked SUV. By evening, yellow tape cut the street in half. The officers didn't look panicked. They looked confused in a careful, practiced way. They asked him the same questions repeatedly: when he left, when he returned, who he spoke to last. They asked if anyone had complained recently. Noise. Smells. Strangers. He said no. They asked if the neighborhood had ever hosted events. Block parties. Church gatherings. Meetings. He said yes, years ago. Nothing recent. They didn't write much down. By the second day, news vans arrived, but they parked at the corner and kept their distance. Reporters whispered. Cameras rolled silently. The headline that night read, "Police investigate possible mass relocation." Relocation. As if 23 people had simply agreed to vanish together. Days passed. No missing persons reports were filed. That detail unsettled everyone who looked too closely. Family members were contacted. Some were confused, others defensive. A few insisted they had spoken to their relatives recently. Text, short calls, nothing alarming. When police checked the phones, the messages were there. Sent after the disappearances. Short replies. Familiar phrases. No errors. Just empty. They drained the houses. Searched the drains. Dug up gardens. Dogs found nothing. No fingerprints where they shouldn't be. No vehicles missing. No credit cards used. The street remained sealed off but intact, like a museum exhibit no one wanted to name. Then a week later, someone noticed the lights. Every house on the street turned on at exactly 7:12 p.m. Living rooms, kitchens, bedrooms, all at once. No timers were found. The police chalked it up to a power surge. An automated system. Anything that didn't require imagination. The man who had gone away for the weekend was told to stay elsewhere. He didn't. He slept in his house that night on the couch, fully dressed. At 2:17 a.m., he heard footsteps outside. Not running, not sneaking, walking, measured, slow, like someone pacing to remember how. He watched through the blinds as shapes moved past the windows across the street. Silhouettes flickered behind curtains that hadn't been touched in days. Doors opened. No voices. No greetings. Just people moving through their homes like guests unsure of the rules. He didn't call the police. He didn't move. At dawn, the street was empty again. But something had changed. Every front door stood slightly open. Inside his mailbox, tucked behind old flyers and warnings, was a folded note. It had his name on it. Inside, written in familiar handwriting, were 4 words. "We came back wrong." The authorities dismissed the note as a cruel prank. The handwriting couldn't be conclusively matched. Stress does strange things to memory, they said. The investigation stalled. The street reopened. New families moved in within months. The houses sold cheaply. The man moved away. Years later, someone else lived in his old home. Someone who didn't know the story. Someone who enjoyed the quiet. On a Friday morning, they packed a bag, locked the door, and waved at a neighbor watering flowers across the street. On Monday evening, they came back. The lawns were trimmed. The bins were rolled in. The street looked exactly the same. And somewhere, just out of sight, the houses were waiting to be filled again. The last time anyone saw Daniel Price in person was at 3:07 a.m., under the flickering fluorescent lights of a distribution warehouse that never really slept. Daniel worked the night shift with his closest friend, Marcus Hale. They'd met 3 years earlier, bonded over the same schedule, the same exhaustion, the same quiet understanding that came from watching the rest of the world sleep while they stayed awake. Night shifts had a way of doing that, forcing people into small, intense friendships. That night started like any other. The warehouse was half-lit, the air thick with dust and the low hum of conveyor belts. Daniel and Marcus spent most of their shift unloading pallets, joking quietly to stay awake. Daniel complained about a headache he couldn't shake. Marcus told him to stop skipping meals. Nothing felt strange. Nothing felt wrong. At 2:58 a.m., the supervisor dismissed the floor early. People clocked out in pairs or alone, boots echoing across concrete. Daniel and Marcus stood by the time clock, waiting their turn. Daniel clocked out first. The system logged it cleanly, 3:01 a.m. Marcus followed a minute later. They walked together toward the exit, their footsteps overlapping on the security camera footage. At the door, Daniel stopped. He patted his pockets, frowned, and sighed. "Forgot my jacket," he said. "I'll catch you." Marcus laughed and told him not to take forever. Daniel nodded and turned back down the hallway, disappearing past the loading bay. Marcus pushed through the exit door at 3:04 a.m. He never saw Daniel again. At first, no one worried. Daniel was known for crashing at friends' places, sometimes disappearing for a day or two. When he didn't answer his phone by noon, Marcus sent a few texts. By evening, they went unread. By the next morning, Marcus reported him missing. The police asked the usual questions. Did Daniel have problems? Debts? Enemies? Marcus said no. Daniel's life was small and predictable. Work, home, a few friends. He didn't party. He didn't travel. So they pulled the security footage. The cameras showed Daniel walking back down the hallway at 3:02 a.m., exactly as Marcus described. He rounded the corner toward the locker room. The camera feed jumped just for a second, a glitch common in the old system. Then Daniel appeared again. At 3:06 a.m., walking toward the exit. The same clothes, same posture, same face. At first, the officers assumed it was delayed footage replaying. But the timestamps were clear. This was a second recording. Daniel exited the building at 3:07 a.m. alone. The police rewound the footage, played it again, slowed it down. The second Daniel never came from the locker room hallway. He appeared already halfway down the corridor, stepping into frame as if he'd been there the entire time. Marcus noticed something else. The way Daniel walked. The first time, Daniel's shoulders were slouched, tired. The second time his posture was stiff, rigid. His arms didn't swing naturally. His steps were measured, almost careful. And his head never turned. Not toward the security camera. Not toward the open loading bays. Not toward the supervisor's office with its lights still on. He walked straight out. The police searched the warehouse from top to bottom. Locker room, bathrooms, storage cages, the loading docks. No sign of Daniel. No blood. No struggle. They checked the parking lot cameras. Daniel's car was still there, locked. His jacket was found folded neatly on the locker room bench. As days passed, the story spread through the warehouse. People whispered about the footage during smoke breaks. Some refused to work nights anymore. Others said the system had been hacked. Management blamed faulty equipment. Marcus couldn't stop watching the video. He noticed details no one else cared about. The second Daniel didn't blink. Not once. His mouth hung slightly open, like he was concentrating on something far away. Then Marcus realized something that made his stomach turn. Daniel didn't badge out the second time. The exit door opened anyway. The police dug deeper. They checked street cameras, traffic cams, nearby businesses. Daniel never appeared on any of them. It was as if he vanished the moment he stepped outside. 2 weeks later, Marcus was called back to the station. The detective looked uneasy, like he hadn't slept. They'd enhanced the audio from the hallway camera. At first it was just static. The low electrical hum of the building. Footsteps. Then, faintly, something else. A voice. When Daniel walked down the hallway the first time, you could hear his boots, his breathing, the soft rustle of fabric. When the second Daniel appeared, the microphone picked up a whisper. Not words. Just breath. Long, shallow. Too close to the mic. As if someone was standing right beside it. The detective told Marcus they'd found something else. Something they hadn't shared publicly. At 3:05 a.m., between the two recordings, the camera showed the empty hallway. But the audio didn't match. There were footsteps. Heavy ones. More than one set. Marcus stopped going to work shortly after that. A month passed. Then another. Daniel's case went cold. Until one night, when a new employee on the night shift reported something strange. He claimed he saw someone in the locker room after hours. A man standing perfectly still, facing the lockers. The employee thought it was Daniel at first. He'd seen the missing posters. When he spoke to the man, he didn't respond. When he stepped closer, the man turned. His eyes were open too wide. His face pale. And he smelled like cold concrete and dust. The man walked past him without a word and headed down the hallway toward the exit. Security footage captured it. The timestamp read 3:06 a.m. The face matched Daniel Price exactly. But this time, the reflection in the polished floor showed something else walking beside him. Something tall. Something that didn't touch the ground. The warehouse shut down shortly after. The footage was sealed. The case quietly buried. Marcus never watched the video again. But sometimes just before 3 a.m. his phone buzzes. No caller ID. No voicemail. Just an open line filled with slow, careful breathing, like someone practicing how to walk out of a place they were never meant to leave. The family moved in on a Tuesday. No moving trucks. No noise. No awkward introductions at the mailbox. One day the house across the street was empty, and the next the curtains were open and the lights were on like they'd always been there. It was a quiet suburban neighborhood, tree-lined streets, identical mailboxes, lawns cut to regulation height. The kind of place where people noticed when a car stayed parked too long or when a porch light burned all night. That's why people remembered the family so clearly afterward. There were 4 of them. A man, a woman, and 2 children. The father was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair he always kept neat. He wore collared shirts even on weekends. The mother smiled a lot but never for long, like she was practicing. The kids were quiet, polite. They rode their bikes in slow, careful circles and waved at adults without saying a word. Their names came from the mailbox, or at least what people thought they read on it. A simple last name. Clean, ordinary. Easy to forget. They lived there for almost 3 months. Neighbors saw them often enough to feel normal. The father left early every morning, his car backing out at the same time each day. The mother walked the kids to school, holding the younger one's hand even though he was old enough to pull away. She never chatted, never lingered, just nodded, smiled, and kept walking. At night, the house glowed warmly, dinner lights on, shadows moving behind curtains. Sometimes laughter drifted across the street, muted by glass and distance. Nothing about them felt threatening. Nothing about them felt urgent. Then one morning the house didn't wake up. No car backed out. No front door opened. The porch light, which had been off every night since they moved in, was still glowing pale yellow in the daylight. People noticed. They always did. By afternoon, the kids hadn't come home from school. That was the first real concern. A neighbor called the school. The school said the children hadn't been enrolled there. That's when the worry turned into confusion. By evening, someone knocked on the family's door. No answer. Someone else tried the handle. Locked. Curtains drawn tighter than usual. The police were called that night. 2 officers arrived, calm and unhurried. They knocked. They circled the house. They looked through windows with flashlights. No sign of forced entry. No signs of struggle. No furniture missing. No clothes gone from closets. Everything was there. Dishes still in the sink. A half-finished puzzle on the dining table. 4 toothbrushes in the bathroom. School bags lined neatly by the door. The officers asked the neighbors questions. How long had the family lived there? What were their names? Where did they work? Everyone answered confidently. People remembered faces, routines, details. But when one officer stepped aside to make a call, his expression changed. He came back quieter. "We don't have any record of them," he said. "No lease. No utility accounts. No school enrollment. No vehicle registration tied to that address." The house, according to county records, had been vacant for over a year. The neighbors argued, insisted. Someone pointed to the mailbox. The officer walked over, opened it, and frowned. It was empty. No name. No mail. Just dust. The police filed a report anyway. A missing persons report without names. Without social security numbers. Without proof they'd ever been there. Days passed. The porch light stayed on. The house started to smell. A sickly, stale odor leaked into the street, strongest in the afternoons. Neighbors complained. The city sent a maintenance crew. They unlocked the door. Inside, nothing had changed. No bodies. No blood. No signs of violence. Just absence. But there were things that didn't sit right. The calendar on the wall had every day marked with a small red X, except the day they disappeared. That square was circled heavily, the paper pressed so hard it nearly tore. In the parents' bedroom, the closet wall was scratched from the inside. Long, uneven marks, like someone had dragged their fingers against the paint over and over again. In the children's room, both beds were stripped bare. Not messy. Not rushed. Perfectly folded blankets stacked on the floor, as if they'd been packed away. The police closed the house, boarded the windows, turned off the power. That should have been the end. It wasn't. The neighbors began noticing gaps in their memories. Small things at first. Someone realized they couldn't remember the family's last name at all. Another admitted they weren't sure how many kids there actually were. 2 or 3. One woman swore the father limped. Another insisted he didn't. Photographs didn't help. Someone had taken a picture during a block party months earlier. When they checked it again, the space where the family had been standing was blurred, like a smudge where the image refused to settle. The house itself began to change. Paint peeled faster than it should have. Grass died in uneven patches shaped like footprints that led nowhere. At night, lights flickered inside even though the power was off. People reported hearing movement. Soft footsteps upstairs. A door closing slowly. Children laughing, cut short like someone covering their mouths. The city scheduled the house for demolition. On the morning the crew arrived, something strange happened. A woman across the street woke up early and looked out her window. The porch light was off. The front door was open. And for just a moment she saw shapes inside. 4 figures standing in the hallway. Perfectly still. Watching the street. She blinked. They were gone. The house was demolished that afternoon. Nothing unusual was found in the debris. No remains. No personal items. No explanation. Within weeks, people stopped talking about the family. Not because they wanted to, because they couldn't. The memories slid away like a dream after waking. Faces blurred. Details dissolved. Conversations cut short when no one could remember what they were trying to say. Years later, a new family moved into the rebuilt house. A man. A woman. 2 children. No moving trucks. No introductions. Just lights turning on one evening as if they'd always been there. And across the street, someone watched from behind a curtain, feeling a quiet, rising panic they couldn't explain. Only that they were certain of one thing. This had happened before. And no one had ever been reported missing. The group left just before dawn on a Friday in early October, 6 of them packed into 2 dusty SUVs, heading toward a stretch of forest locals referred to only as the Back Range. It wasn't marked clearly on most maps, and cell service dropped less than 10 minutes past the last gas station. But it wasn't forbidden land either. Just quiet, rarely patrolled, and rumored to feel off. The campers were ordinary people. 2 couples in their late 20s, a younger brother tagging along, and an old college friend who had suggested the trip in the first place. Weekend hikers. Office jobs. The kind of people who took photos of trail signs and joked about getting lost. They told friends they'd be back by Sunday night. By Monday morning, none of them had shown up to work. At first, it didn't raise alarms. Phones die in the woods. People oversleep. One of the couple's parents even laughed it off, saying they were probably extending the trip. By Monday evening, concern set in. By Tuesday morning, the Forest Service was notified. Search crews didn't reach the campsite until just afternoon. It wasn't far off the main trail, less than a mile in, but the path narrowed unnaturally as it went on, the trees growing closer together, their branches overlapping as if intentionally blocking the sky. When they reached the clearing, the first thing they noticed was the smell. Food. Still warm. A pot sat over a collapsed fire ring, soup congealed around the edges but steaming faintly, as though it had been stirred minutes earlier. A pan of half-cooked meat rested nearby, insects already gathering. 6 tents stood in a loose circle, zipped closed, undisturbed. No rips. No signs of struggle. At the edge of the clearing, neatly lined side by side, were 6 pairs of shoes. Boots. Sneakers. Sandals. All empty. The ranger leading the team called it in immediately. His voice, caught later on radio recordings, was steady but tight. He requested backup, canine units, and medical personnel. Then they started opening the tents. Inside each one were personal items laid out with strange care. Folded jackets, backpacks zipped shut, wallets placed near pillows. Phones stacked in one tent, all powered off. In the largest tent, someone had arranged 6 empty sleeping bags in a circle, their openings facing inward. No blood. No torn fabric. No footprints leaving the clearing. The ground around the campsite was soft from recent rain, yet there were no tracks leading into the trees. The only impressions were the campers' boot prints coming into the clearing. None going out. Search teams expanded the radius over the next 3 days. Helicopters scanned from above. Dogs picked up faint scents that led nowhere, stopping abruptly at random points in the woods, whining and refusing to go further. On the second night, one of the volunteers reported hearing voices. He said it sounded like people whispering just beyond the tree line, overlapping, indistinct. When he shined his flashlight toward the sound, it stopped instantly. Later, another volunteer claimed she heard her name being called from deeper in the forest, spoken in a familiar voice she couldn't place. Both reports were quietly dismissed. On the 4th day, rain began to fall heavily. That was when something changed. A ranger returning to the campsite noticed the tents were no longer exactly as they'd been left. They had shifted. Only slightly, but unmistakably. One tent, previously zipped shut, now hung open a few inches. Inside, fresh mud streaked across the floor. Bare footprints. Adult-sized. 6 of them. They pointed inward, toward the center of the clearing. That night, the search was suspended. Officials cited safety concerns, worsening weather, and environmental instability. The phrase made its way into the report without explanation. By the following week, the case had reached national attention. News outlets showed aerial shots of the empty forest, blurred photos of the campsite, headlines asking the same question over and over. Where did they go? That was when a local man came forward. He was in his 70s, lived alone near the forest boundary, and claimed he'd seen something the night the campers disappeared. He said he'd been walking his dog just before midnight when he noticed an unusual glow between the trees. Not firelight, too steady, too pale. He described figures standing at the edge of the forest, unmoving, silhouetted against the light. 6 of them. He thought they were mannequins at first. Then one of them turned its head. When police asked why he hadn't reported it sooner, he went quiet. After a long pause, he said, "Because they weren't leaving." The statement was excluded from official records. Months passed. The forest was reopened. The case cooled. But the campsite was never the same. Hikers reported finding items that didn't belong to them. Extra shoes left neatly beside their tents, even when they were hiking alone. Some claimed their food went cold unnaturally fast, steam fading the moment they stepped away. One group swore they woke up to find their tents rearranged into a perfect circle during the night. Then, nearly a year later, a storm uprooted several trees near the original clearing. Under one fallen trunk, searchers found something wrapped in rotting fabric. A jacket. Inside the pocket was a phone. The battery was dead, but when investigators managed to recover partial audio data, they found a single recording saved, time-stamped the night the campers vanished. The audio was only 40 seconds long. At first it sounded like wind, then breathing. Heavy. Panicked. A man whispered, "They're standing outside. They won't come in." Another voice, female, said, "Don't look at them." Someone else began crying softly. Then all at once the breathing stopped. Footsteps followed. Bare feet on dirt. 6 sets. Moving away from the phone. Toward the forest. The final sound wasn't a scream. It was fabric rustling. Zippers closing. One by one. The case remains officially unsolved. But locals will tell you the forest still gives things back sometimes. Backpacks. Tents. Always clean. Always empty. And never ever the people who brought them in. The walk from the bus stop to the apartment took 5 minutes. It was the kind of walk people stopped noticing after doing it every day for years. A straight sidewalk, a row of quiet duplexes, one flickering streetlight, then the corner where the pavement narrowed and cut behind a grocery store. Parents let their kids do it alone. People scrolled on their phones while walking it. Nothing had ever happened there. That's why no one panicked when Mara didn't come home on time. Her sister Lena was the first to notice. Mara texted at 9:12 p.m. saying she'd just gotten off the bus. Same message she always sent. By 9:20 she should have been inside, dropping her keys on the counter, complaining about her feet hurting. By 9:30, Lena called her phone. It rang until voicemail. By 9:45 she called again. This time someone picked up. There was no voice on the other end. No greeting. No background noise of traffic or wind. Just breathing. Slow. Controlled. Like someone standing still. Lena said her sister's name 3 times before hanging up. She told herself it was a pocket answer. An accidental pickup. People did that all the time. But at 10:05 the phone rang back. Same thing. Breathing. Nothing else. By the time the police were called, the phone went straight to voicemail again. The officers treated it like a delayed arrival at first. Maybe she stopped to talk to someone. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she took a shortcut. They drove the route with flashlights, checked behind the store, knocked on doors. No Mara. No dropped phone. No signs of a struggle. No witnesses. Just a quiet sidewalk that looked exactly the same as it had every other night. Around midnight, Lena's phone buzzed again. Incoming call, Mara. She answered immediately. Breathing. This time, closer to the microphone. Wet almost, like lips parted just enough to let air pass through. There was a faint rhythm to it, too steady to be accidental. Lena begged whoever it was to say something. She begged them to let her sister talk. She threatened to call the police again even though they were already there. The breathing never changed. The call ended after 30 seconds. The phone's GPS was checked. It showed Mara's phone moving, slowly, in a wide loop several blocks away from the bus stop. Then it stopped. Then it disappeared from tracking entirely. The police said the signal could be bouncing. They said phones did strange things sometimes. They didn't say much else. The next morning, a search party formed. Family, friends, neighbors who suddenly realized how dark that 5-minute walk actually was at night. They found nothing. That afternoon, the phone rang again. This time, Lena put it on speaker so her parents could hear. The breathing was louder now, uneven, like the person was pressing the phone too close to their face. Her father shouted into it, demanding answers. There was a pause. Then a sound, barely audible, but unmistakable. Fabric moving, like clothes shifting. Then the line went dead. By the third day, the calls became routine. Always from Mara's phone. Always unanswered breathing. Never longer than a minute. Never short enough to feel accidental. The police asked Lena to stop answering. She couldn't. Something about those calls felt intentional. Like someone wanted to be heard but not understood. Like they were counting on the family listening. On day 4, the breathing changed. It wasn't steady anymore. There was strain in it now. A faint rasp. Like air being forced through something tight. Lena noticed something else too. Every time the phone rang, it happened at exactly 9:20 p.m. The moment Mara should have been home. On the 5th night, Lena whispered into the phone instead of speaking normally. She asked a simple question. Is she alive? The breathing stopped. For the first time, there was silence on the line. Then, very faintly, came a sound that made everyone in the room freeze. A muffled sob. The call disconnected immediately. Police traced the signal again. This time, it pinged near an abandoned drainage access on the edge of town. They searched it top to bottom. Flashlights swept through stagnant water, graffiti-covered walls, discarded blankets. Nothing. No phone. No Mara. That should have been the end of it. But on the 6th night, the call came again. Same time. Same number. But this time, when Lena answered, there was something new beneath the breathing. Movement. A slow scraping sound. Like something being dragged across concrete. Then a whisper. So quiet it almost blended with the breath. Help. Lena screamed. The police were called immediately. They traced the call in real time. The signal wasn't moving. It was coming from inside the family's apartment building. Officers searched every floor, every stairwell, every storage room. They found nothing. The call stopped after that. Days passed. Then weeks. Mara was declared missing. Flyers went up. The story ran briefly on the local news before being replaced by something newer, something louder. Life continued unevenly. Then, 3 months later, a construction crew working behind the grocery store found something lodged in a storm drain. A phone. Waterlogged. Cracked. Battery long dead. It was Mara's. The case officially went cold after that. No suspects. No witnesses. No explanation. Except one detail the police didn't notice at first. When the phone was examined, they found something strange in the call logs. Every incoming call from Mara's phone during those 6 days was listed as answered. But there was one outgoing call logged as well. One call placed from the phone. It happened at 9:19 p.m. on the night she disappeared. A call that lasted 11 seconds. The number it dialed belonged to Mara herself. And when Lena listens to the voicemail attached to that call now, she hears her sister's voice for the first time since that night. It's quiet, shaky, cut short. I'm almost home, Mara says. Then there's a sound like a hand covering the phone. And behind it, breathing. Very close. Not hers. They used to say the last safe bus stop was 3 miles before the highway. After that, the road stretched into nothing but trees, gravel shoulders, and a single strip of cracked pavement that trucks used to avoid tolls. Locals knew the rule. If you missed the final marked stop, you didn't wait for another bus. You walked. You called someone. You did anything except stand by the road after dark. The stop itself wasn't on any map. No sign. No bench. Just a widening in the shoulder where the dirt had been packed flat by years of tires and footsteps. The only indication it was a stop at all was a crooked wooden post shoved into the ground, splintered at the top, with layers of old tape wrapped around it. No route number. No schedule. That's where Evan waited. Evan Carter was 24, new to the area, working a temporary warehouse job outside the city. His car had broken down earlier that week, and the late bus was his only way back to his rented room. On his first night shift, he asked a coworker if the bus still ran past the highway. The man stared at him for a moment too long. "It does," he said finally. "But don't wait at that stop." Evan laughed it off. People in small towns loved their stories. On the second night, his phone died halfway through the shift. By the time he clocked out, it was close to midnight. The regular stop was already dark, no headlights in sight. When he asked the security guard if another bus was coming, the guard hesitated. "There's one more," he said. "But it doesn't stop here." "Where does it stop?" The guard looked down the road. "Before the highway." Evan walked. The air grew colder with every step. The road lights stopped abruptly, as if someone had decided darkness didn't need to be managed beyond that point. Trees leaned in close, their branches knitting together overhead. The hum of insects was constant, loud enough to make the silence underneath it feel intentional. When Evan reached the clearing, he felt it immediately, the sense that he had arrived somewhere he wasn't meant to linger. There were already people waiting. 5 of them. They stood in a loose line, all facing the road, none of them speaking. A woman in a nurse's jacket. A teenage boy with a backpack slung over one shoulder. An older man gripping a grocery bag so tightly the plastic stretched white. 2 others Evan couldn't place, faces half hidden by shadow. Evan offered a polite nod. No one returned it. He checked his watch. The bus was late. Minutes passed. Then more. The air seemed to thicken, pressing down on the clearing. Evan shifted his weight and noticed something odd. No headlights, no engine noise, no distant hum from the highway. It was as if the road itself had gone dormant. Then the bus appeared. It didn't approach from either direction. It was simply there. One moment the road was empty, the next a long, dull gray bus sat in front of them, doors already open. Its lights were on, but dim, casting a sickly yellow glow that didn't reach very far. No number. No destination sign. The driver remained unseen. No one questioned it. The nurse stepped forward first. As she climbed the steps, she hesitated, turning slightly as if she'd forgotten something important. Her mouth opened, then closed. She stepped inside. The teenage boy followed. Then the older man. Each one boarded silently without looking back. When it was Evan's turn, he froze. Something felt wrong, not in a dramatic way but in a quiet, undeniable sense of imbalance. The bus smelled faintly of damp fabric and old metal. The interior lights flickered, revealing rows of seats that looked worn. Not dirty. Just used. As if countless people had passed through, leaving nothing behind. "Is this going to the city?" Evan asked. No answer. The doors remained open. Behind him, one of the remaining figures shifted closer. Evan felt the pressure of being hurried, of being the only disruption in an established routine. He stepped back. "I'll catch the next one," he said, more to himself than anyone else. The doors closed immediately. The bus pulled away without a sound. No exhaust. No tire noise. Just motion. Evan stood alone in the clearing, heart pounding, watching until the taillights vanished into the trees. They never reappeared on the road. The next morning, Evan told his landlord what happened. The man listened carefully, expression tightening with each detail. "You saw people get on?" he asked. "Yes. 5 of them." The landlord nodded once. "That's about right." He explained that over the years people reported missing along that stretch of road. Hitchhikers, shift workers, travelers passing through. Always at night. Always with witnesses who claimed they saw a bus. No license plate. No company name. And no records. Evan went to the police. They took his statement politely and filed it away. No cameras covered that part of the highway. No transit authority claimed the route. No missing persons report matched all 5 people he described. Weeks passed. Then Evan saw one of them again. It was the nurse. She stood across the street from the warehouse during a lunch break, still wearing the same jacket. She didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared at the building. When Evan crossed the road, she was gone. That night, he searched online forums and local archives. Buried in decades-old posts were similar stories. Different towns. Same bus. Same unmarked stop just before a highway. One comment stood out. "They don't take everyone," it read. "Sometimes they let one go. Someone has to remember." Evan stopped taking the late shift. Months later, another coworker mentioned waiting at a strange bus stop past the lights. Said people warned him about it, but he didn't believe them. "Heard the bus is real," the coworker said casually. "You ever seen it?" Evan told him not to go. The man laughed. 2 days later, he didn't show up for work. The bus stop remains where it always was, unmarked, unofficial, and unacknowledged. Locals still avoid it. Trucks still speed past without slowing. And every so often, late at night, someone swears they see a bus waiting where no bus should be. Doors open. Lights dim. Patient. They found the car just before midnight, pulled over on the shoulder of a long, unlit highway that cut through miles of farmland and forest. The road was the kind people avoided at night, not because it was dangerous but because nothing ever seemed to happen there. No gas stations. No houses. Just asphalt, trees, and darkness stretching on forever. That's why it stood out when 3 friends driving home from a birthday gathering noticed a sedan stopped on the shoulder, hazard lights blinking weakly. Inside the SUV were Daniel Moore, his cousin Alex, and Alex's girlfriend, Rena. All in their mid-20s. Ordinary people. The kind who stopped to help because they always had. The stranded driver was standing beside the car, waving with one arm. He looked frustrated but calm. No signs of panic. No visible injuries. Daniel slowed down. Alex hesitated. He mentioned how empty the road was, how late it had gotten. Rena said they should at least ask if the man needed to call someone. They pulled over. The driver thanked them immediately. He said his tire had blown out and his phone battery had died. He didn't ask for a ride, just help changing the tire. He sounded relieved more than anything. The spare was in the trunk. The tire iron was rusted but usable. While Daniel and Alex worked, Rena stood nearby, shining her phone flashlight and chatting with the man. She later texted her sister that he seemed normal, just tired. The night was quiet. No passing cars. No wind. Just the soft clicking of the hazard lights and metal scraping asphalt. About 10 minutes in, Daniel suggested calling roadside assistance anyway just to be safe. Rena handed her phone to Alex. There was service, barely. Alex stepped a few feet away to make the call. That's when the first strange thing happened. He stopped talking mid-sentence. At first, Rena thought the call had dropped. But Alex didn't move. He just stood there, phone to his ear, staring down the road. Daniel called his name. No response. Alex lowered the phone slowly, his face drained of color. He said the person on the other end hadn't hung up. They were still there. Breathing. Not speaking. Just breathing. Daniel laughed nervously, assuming it was interference or a prank. Alex checked the screen. The call timer was still running. Then the breathing stopped, and the line went dead. Rena suggested they finish quickly and leave. The driver hadn't reacted at all during this, just stood near the trunk, watching, hands in his jacket pockets. Daniel tightened the last bolt. The tire was ready. That's when the driver asked a strange question. "Did anyone else see you stop?" Daniel said no. The road had been empty. The man nodded like he'd expected that answer. Rena felt uneasy enough to step back toward the SUV. She later told friends she suddenly had the overwhelming feeling that something was wrong, but couldn't explain why. Daniel stood up and brushed dirt from his hands. That's when the headlights behind them turned on. Not a car approaching. Headlights already there, just beyond the tree line. Parked. Facing them. None of them had seen or heard it arrive. Alex turned slowly. "What the hell is that?" he asked. The stranded driver smiled for the first time. He thanked them again. Then he walked toward the lights and disappeared into them. Daniel shouted after him. No answer. The headlights switched off. The road was dark again. That's when Rena screamed. Daniel and Alex turned to see her clutching her phone, shaking. Someone had just called her. From Alex's phone number. She answered without thinking. All she heard was breathing. Closer this time. Then Alex's voice whispered her name. But Alex was standing right beside her. She dropped the phone. Daniel grabbed it and shouted into the speaker, demanding to know who it was. The line crackled. Then came a sound none of them could place at first. Metal dragging across pavement. Slow. Heavy. Daniel ended the call. They decided to leave immediately. They got into the SUV. Daniel turned the key. Nothing happened. The dashboard lights flickered once, and went dark. The silence felt thick, pressing in. Then someone knocked on the back window. Rena screamed again. Daniel whipped around. No one was there. Another knock. This time on the driver's side door. Alex rolled down the window an inch, yelling for whoever it was to step back. Something grabbed the glass from the outside. Not a hand. Something heavier. The window shattered inward. That's the last confirmed event investigators were able to piece together. Because none of the three were ever seen again. Their SUV was found the next morning, parked neatly on the shoulder. Doors closed. Keys still in the ignition. No blood. No signs of a struggle. Alex's phone was on the ground nearby, screen cracked but working. The call log showed one outgoing call, to roadside assistance. It ended abruptly. Mid-sentence. Rena's phone was inside the car. Daniel's wallet was still in the glove compartment. The spare tire on the sedan had been changed perfectly, but the sedan itself was gone. No skid marks. No footprints. No evidence it had ever been there at all. The most unsettling detail came weeks later, when a truck driver reported something to police. He said he'd broken down on that same stretch of road. He said a car pulled over to help him. 3 people got out. They were quiet. Polite. Too polite. They didn't speak unless spoken to. And while they worked, he noticed something that made his stomach turn. None of them blinked. Not once. When he offered to call someone, one of them smiled and said, "No need. We already did." The driver panicked and sped away before they finished. He didn't report it right away, assuming stress had messed with his head. Until he saw their faces on a missing persons poster at a gas station 2 towns over. The case remains unsolved. The stretch of highway is still there. People still drive it every night. And sometimes, late after midnight, drivers report seeing a stranded car on the shoulder. Hazard lights blinking. Someone standing beside it, waiting for help.